I'm just disappointed by the way Sega and Sonic Team have always handled Sonic, because yeah, a lot of people still like the games, but I think for nobody there's any denying that Sonic, the way it's been handled, has been terribly inconsistent, kind of reckless in a lot of ways as well. And I feel like that just really damaged the brand, and I feel like Sonic has always deserved a lot better.
Yes.
Without question.
Look at all those Eggman's robots!
Don't do that again.
I think the thing that pissed me off the most was Sonic 06 was a huge mistake that no major publisher should ever let happen to their flagship character, but okay, it happened, and then somehow Sonic Boom happened. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? That just to me shows that Sega doesn't know what they're doing with Sonic.
Sonic Boom was an absolute comedy of errors.
Yeah, you can blame the developers, but Sega was the one managing the project in the end.
No, I actually don't.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't think it was the developers' fault at all. I think that from what's come out, what happened was that they were building a game to run on the, I believe, on the PS4 and the Xbox One.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Sega signed this exclusivity deal with Nintendo, and the team didn't have time to port the game they had been working on all this time to the Wii U, which is much weaker than the PS4 and Xbox One. So that was one major reason the game came out as poorly as it did.
I just need to know one thing. Which stage are we in?
Frog Forest.
We're in Frog Forest.
Okay, so a little more than halfway done. Alright. I just need to know, because I need to be gone in, by 12, we'll say. Anyway.
I don't think that'll be a problem. Frog Forest had one of the few examples of Sonic Heroes actually using its unending character dialogue well. I always remember Knuckles talking about how he has big mushrooms on his island too. I'm like, continuity.
Yes.
There's the Knuckles sliding thing. But why can't Sonic Team and Sega get it together for Sonic? I don't understand why they cannot seem to do it.
I remember seeing an old Jim Sterling video that explained this perfectly.
Everybody can be an armchair executive and say that it's easy, you're doing it all wrong, but we're not in that position.
No, of course, but I mean, look at what Capcom's been doing. They've been doing great, and they were shit for a long time. Capcom was some of the bottom of the barrel stuff, I think, like 10 years ago when they did all that Super Street Fighter stuff.
And canceled a bunch of Mega Man games.
Yeah, now they've come on top. They've made Mega Man 11, whether you like it or not. It was well received, and a lot of people loved it. It was kind of like the old Mega Man games.
Resident Evil
Devil
7
May Cry
was good.
5 is amazing. Resident Evil 7 was amazing. Resident Evil 2 Remake was amazing. Why can Capcom revive their classic franchises and modernize them in a way that people love it? Like, nobody's complaining about Resident Evil 2 Remake or Devil May Cry 5.
There are 10 different visions of Resident Evil that coexist. That's the difference.
It's also about confidence. They have confidence in these brands, these games, to do well if they just, put a lot of passion into it. Sega, Sonic Team have not felt that in a long time. They have to constantly change it up with every couple of games. So we got stuff like the Warhog, so we got Lost World, so we got Sonic Boom, because they can't just stick to one thing and refine it a little bit from game to game, as most game developers do. They feel like anytime they have something that kind of works, okay, now we need to go back to the drawing board and experiment and do something completely different again.
Yeah,
because for some reason they're worried people will get bored of it.
Yeah, and I think like the best recent example of that for me anyway was probably Lost World, where over the course of Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, they had a formula that was working for a lot of people and that they could build off of, and they finally figured out a way to make a 3D Sonic game work. And then it's like they looked at the reviews, like some of the most critical reviews of Generations, and they were like, okay, we need to fix this, we need to appeal to this. Like Lost World has the same problem to me that Heroes does, actually, in that I feel like it's constantly trying to be a Sonic game for people who would never like Sonic games in the first place.
There's just one other thing I want to point out real quick. It's about, here's the reason some people think that Sonic, not just as a game concept, this isn't just like, oh, Sonic games were never good. There are people who think that Sonic himself is not a good character, because Sonic was created to be cool. He was created to be cooler than Mario. Unfortunately, cool means something different every day. You know, it doesn't stay the same for long. What was cool yesterday will not be cool tomorrow. And so Sonic has to constantly change to fit whatever the current definition of cool is. And they've had such a hard time with that.
Even if you just look at American classic Sonic in the 90s versus what he was in the games, which were created by Japanese folks, it's just like you look at Jaleel White Sonic in Sonic, The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sad AM, and Underground, I guess, came later.
And now we have,
you look at that
exactly.
To,
Jaleel White was the truest portrayal of the character. I know. Why can't they go back to that?
And okay, and then like look at how he is in like the more recent games. Just this really jaded, self-deprecating guy who's always like commenting on how stupid everything is. It's like the writers don't know what to do with it. Like, hey, yeah, we all know Sonic is stupid, right? Let's just point that out again. And it's like, why are they so cynical? Why can't they just embrace it and have fun with the concept anymore?
I thought Forces Sonic was basically just Adventure 2 Sonic again, personality-wise.
Yeah, I don't see Sonic as really changing a whole lot personality-wise all the time. Like, the thing is, like, when people make that argument, like, yeah, what defines cool does change, but I think that, like, the idea of this, like, very cocky, very, like, braggadocious character who's like, incredibly sure of himself, like, that doesn't really stop being cool, or at least it hasn't for many decades.
And there you have it, you cracked the code, Josh. It's that self-assuredness. See, classic Sonic, he doesn't try to be cool. He doesn't have to put on a show. He just is cool, naturally. Like, even just his body language from his animations in the games. You know, when he gets impatient, he starts tapping his foot. He's not trying to be cool, he actually has that attitude. And there's something kind of funny about this cutesy little woodland critter acting that way. And they haven't really been able to hit that balance again since. You know, he either has to say crazy catchphrases that'll be out of date in a few years, or he has to be like so aloof and like, I don't care about anything, dude, because that's what some people think is cool nowadays, is just being irreverent about everything. So, they just haven't got a good grasp of what Sonic is.
Well, I think, again, that's relating to the fact that they do not have a vision, and they do not stick to what works. Like, if one thing worked for Sonic, Sega doesn't seem to understand that when something works, you just don't throw it away.
Or for that matter, that you're never going to please everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Why do franchises like Mario work so well? Why is Capcom getting so much praise now that they've been getting their game together again? It's because they
have
decide
confidence.
what kind of game decide what kind of game to make, and they make it. They don't compromise. They don't really listen to people who, like,
they commit to it.
There are detractors of Mega Man 11 and the Resident Evil 2 remake because it doesn't use tank controls and fixed camera angles, but Capcom, they had an idea and they decided to go with it, and I think that always makes a stronger game than a game that tries to appeal to whatever fans may be saying.
Yeah, like,
it's about commitment.
Imagine a Mega Man 11 that also tried to incorporate elements of the Legends series or something like that. Like, don't worry, if you don't like 2D Mega Man, don't worry.
Well,
don't worry,
that's the
Legends
difference
fans.
between Mega Man and Sonic in that regard, is that they built those separate series.
Mm-hmm.
And they made it clear, like, where each one falls. They made it clear that, like, okay, this is a couple hundred years after that one, and this one is in a different timeline altogether, where the kids just use the internet for everything. You know, they made it clear where the lines were.
And for that matter, I think another problem has been that, like, and the reason that Sonic Team has gone back to the drawing board and back to the drawing board is because they seem to want the series, or believe that it should have, the massive widespread appeal of a Mario or maybe a Kirby, and Sonic is not really built to do that. Like, it's okay for this particular series to be in a niche and to appeal to, like, fans of a different kind of platformer. It's kind of similar to how like the Donkey Kong Country series, like with Returns and Tropical Freeze, like ratcheted up the difficulty a whole bunch. They didn't try to compromise it, like you were saying. Like they knew what they wanted the series to be. They knew how they wanted to make it stand out. That meant that it was going to be like too difficult for some people. Some people aren't going to enjoy that level of like complexity and difficulty in a platformer, but that's okay.
You know, this is going to be a weird example to bring up, but there was an episode of Sonic X of all things. Clement brought this up in his 06 review, and it is stunning to me how much that episode gets Sonic's character perfectly. You know, he sees this girl who's, stuck in a wheelchair, and she's trying to get somewhere, and so he helps her out. And then it's like the president wants to have some photo op with him, and he's just like, that guy can wait. And I mean, he's a little bit irreverent, but not to the point where you feel like his spirit has been crushed, like with how Sonic acts nowadays. He's just this spunky guy who doesn't have time for your crap and has his own agenda, and is driven. And that's what Sonic's supposed to be to me. That is like how I imagine classic Sonic.
I do think, I know that EXO is probably going to disagree with this, but I do think there is some merit to the argument that classic Sonic has a more timeless appeal in terms of his character design, but I know that a whole lot of that is just going to be fueled through my nostalgia. I think classic Sonic is probably the stronger design.
Well, I think the more you tack on to a character, right? The more you over-design them, you give them voices and all that stuff, the more you're gonna put people off. Classic Sonic is such a simple, universal kind of design, it's hard to hate, or dislike, or not like something about. But then you get modern Sonic and they give him this cocky voice, and the voices change, so you're always going to be putting people off with that, whereas with classic Sonic, it's hard to be put off, I think.
Yeah, a whole lot of that universal appeal you were talking about is just down to the fact that, you don't hear classic Sonic talk in the games anyway. When it comes to depictions of a cool character, giving them a voice that is also cool and manages to come across that way is always a very difficult thing to do, and I always think of Jason Griffith.
I just discovered just now that you can remove the Egg Hammer's helmets with the tornado.
Oh, really?
What? You didn't know that all these years.
I thought you had to wait for him to spin around and knock him over all this time.
Wait a sec. What stage are you on now?
Lost Jungle.
Oh boy, I'm sorry guys, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stick around for the entire thing, because we still got another hour of gameplay left, and I'm gonna have to leave in, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes?
Maybe if EXO didn't keep dying,
well,
we would be on track.
I don't want to pull this card, RZ, but it's not like all those deaths were my fault.
Oh, excuses, just blame the game, EXO.
Anyway,
So the problem with Sonic Heroes is that it's very janky mechanically, and that can get you killed. EXO, why are you making excuses?
You have so much experience with this game, EXO.
Just try to focus.
Well, here's the thing is that when we recorded this last time, I had been playing a ton of this. And it's like we were even talking about muscle memory earlier. And it's just like I've been playing a ton of Unleashed since we recorded last. So that's what's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and when you played this before, like you said, that was about 2 months ago. At that time, my playthrough of Sonic Heroes that I'd done to make a video for it was a lot more recent too, so those feelings were a lot more raw. Now I'm like, the way that I got through making that video was to say okay, once I'm done with this, once I have this out, once I've said my piece on it, I will never have to play or even look at or even think about Sonic Heroes ever again. And then
here you are.
and then you agreed to join this playthrough.
Indeed.
And then it went wrong, and then you had to do it again.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't feel nearly as I don't feel nearly as much venom toward this game as I did 2 months ago.
But yeah, I just think what Nick
Hold
was
on, guys.
saying about
I'm sorry.
Sonic's
I gotta mute my mic for a sec because someone's calling me on the phone. I gotta go take care of it. I'll be right back.
Okay. But what Nick was saying about the character design and stuff like that, I think that's also a problem, that Sonic's personality has always been different. So it's a lot harder now to continue pushing one vision, because a lot of people who are now getting into Devil May Cry 5 are like, wow, Dante is such a stupid character. But the people who know Dante love it because that's what they've always been used to and it's never changed. You know? Mm-hmm. And now with Sonic, it's... Which character do they use from now on?
Well, I think this is sort of something that I've noticed recently, is that, generally speaking, very few... Like, it's going to be really hard for anything to live up to your memories of playing it as a kid. This is something that I personally experienced a lot in the GameCube era, with games like Double Dash, and Double Dash compared to Mario Kart 64, or Sonic Heroes compared to, the classic games. Like, I think it takes a while... Like, one part of my problem with Heroes was just that I was expecting it to live up to what Sonic, like, how it felt to play Sonic games as a kid, and of course, no matter how good it was never going to do that. So I think you see people, like, I've noticed this recently with Kingdom Hearts 3's release, and I'm not big into Kingdom Hearts, and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I know there were a lot of people who were saying, oh, this dialogue is so bad, like, this is so cheesy, the writing was much stronger in 2, and the characters were a lot...
No, it wasn't.
But yeah, that's the thing, like, you were just a kid when you played it.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3 is both the best game in the series and also a poster child for everything wrong with it at the same time.
That's a good way of putting it.
Because it's like, gameplay-wise, it is the best game in that series, easily.
Exo, I would tread this with caution because the Kingdom Hearts fans are watching. They will be ripping you a new one.
And I fell and died. But
that's your
punishment. At the same time, it's just like the story. The story is just like the culmination of all the stupid retcons and bullshit that Nomura has been pulling out of his ass for the past, like, 15 years since 2 came out.
Okay, here's...
So that's actually fantastic storytelling in the case of Kingdom Hearts.
No, it isn't. Okay, look, let me give my perspective real quick. Okay? And this is as someone who wasn't into Kingdom Hearts back when it was first released, but I have been getting into it in recent years. And even just as a relative newcomer coming into it, I have a good idea what's going on in the first 2 games. Even the second game was relatively simple. Like, I got the concept of nobodies and whatnot. And honestly, the way that game wrapped up felt more like a proper conclusion to the series than 3 does. If they had just left it there...
3 wasn't supposed to be a conclusion. It was just supposed to be the end of the Xehanort shit.
I know, but even as a conclusion to that chunk of the story, honestly, if the series ended with 2, I would be perfectly fine. But then in other games, Nomura had to retcon things, like, he completely rewrote what, like, nobodies are in, like, what is it, Dream Drop Distance? Yeah. He took everything people thought they knew in Kingdom Hearts 2 and said, yeah, that's not true at all. And it turns out there's like 500 other layers to this story. I'm like, oh, great. Just make it completely inaccessible to people now.
Yeah, at first it was, oh, that's not Ansem, that's his apprentice that took his name and then split into 2 people. And then it's like, oh, that wasn't him, that was an old Keyblade Master who possessed the body of a younger Keyblade Master and then split into 2 people and then changed his name to Ansem.
And oh man, and by the time,
so stupid.
Again, by the time we get to like Dream Drop Distance, that's where it starts getting really dumb, because I get that like when a person is split, you've got their Heartless, the dark shadowy thing, you've got the Nobody, the other dark shadowy thing. But then they had to say, oh, well, when you kill both somebody's Heartless and their Nobody, the original person comes back to life.
That is such a cop-out.
Especially when you remember Xehanort, the old dude.
It was just an excuse to bring Master Xehanort back.
But not just that.
That's all it was.
But not just that. But remember, the entire reason he possessed that younger guy was because he was getting old, and he wanted a strong new vessel that he could like live for long longer in. So why go back to his old design? Why do you want to be an old man again? It just goes around in circles and circles, and I'm like, gosh dang it, what is even the point of this anymore?
You know what I love is that when you question that, like, people act like you just don't get it. Like you aren't keeping up with it, right?
Really?
When that's not really... Yeah, it's like I was asking, why are Xemnas and Ansem and Dream Drop Systems in 3? Because they don't really explain how the time travel works very well.
We just have to have every separate
Why does Master
incarnation.
Xehanort look like his old self, and why didn't Terra show up at the same time, if that's the case?
Oh my
But
gosh,
no,
my head
and then
hurts.
Terra Xehanort shows up, and he's there at the same time as Master Xehanort, and they don't explain that at all.
See,
and then when you complain about it, people act like you just don't know what's going on, when that's like putting the horse before the cart, or missing the forest through the trees.